The record's called Watershed. It's our 9th studio record since '94 when we did the first one. Basically, we never have goals, or master plans or whatever. We just basically try to come up with good songs, I guess, and even though they sound a bit different than like ordinary metal bands or whatever, I think we still just write songs the way we like them to sound, and there's no real idea behind them. It's just we kind of jam around and see what we come up with, and hopefully it's going to be something cool. I collect records from the 60s and 70s, like psychedelic music and progressive rock and singer-songwriters and, anything pretty much. And also, my history with heavy metal goes back to when I was a kid, But there's a couple of actually artists that I listen a lot to writing these songs. One is Scott Walker from the Walker Brothers. He put out a record a year or 2 years ago called The Drift, which is just basically, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's basically a crooner vocalist, like Dean Martin or something, and in recent years he's just been experimenting with avant-garde sounds, like noise in a way, and his kind of crooner vocals soaring above that, it's very interesting. And his last record, which is called The Drift, is one of the best or most interesting records I've heard in years. It's just disharmonics, like we used a lot. Everything like that is just like all over that album, and that made a huge impact on me. And also, I discovered years too late the Zombies with Rod Argent, and they have a record called Odyssey and Oracle, which is a masterpiece. And I just heard it like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Blew me away, and it's my top 3 favorite record of all time now. So that made a huge impact on me. We worked a lot with effects, facings, and that kind of stuff that they used a lot in the 60s. And obviously all the metal that we've been listening to, and that we grew up listening to. But I guess Scott Walker and the Zombies are like, I know for a fact that they made a huge difference this time around writing this album. I always been a big fan of the Beatles, and I pretty much consider them the only kind of psychedelic, when they turned into their psychedelic period in the mid to late 60s, like they were the only ones who actually did it well enough for me to kind of listen up, amongst what I was listening to at the time growing up, like the Scorpions, Accept, and those kind of bands. I always loved the Beatles, And I guess I've been looking for a band like that. I didn't know there were any other bands that I could actually like as much as, say, Sgt. Pepper or Revolver, those kind of albums. And Odyssey and Oracle just kind of, it just sailed past fucking Revolver, and it's just, it's a masterpiece, I love a good pop song, I love a good strong melody, and they also are experimenting with lots of major chords, kind of that you don't expect. That's I think one of the things that Rod Argent, when he writes songs, he kind of has a tendency to go into like a major chord when you kind of don't expect it, which I think bands like Radiohead and Muse, they must have been listening to the Zombies a lot, so that's a thing that I've always been interested in, chords that kind of change the whole vibe of a riff or a song, so that they really mastered that kind of thing, even though they just did 2 albums. But basically, I'm interested in all sorts of music, but this time around it's just happened to be an album that had such a huge impact on me that actually did affect the songwriting, so you can almost pinpoint where the Zombies kind of record was playing as I was writing, whatever. I developed my playing. Fredrik and I, haven't only known each other for 3 or 4, 5 years or something. But my guitar playing was developed from what I was listening to growing up in a way, with bands like Scorpions, and I wanted to play like Yngwie Malmsteen, but I never been able to. And Maiden and Priest and that kind of stuff. Also Sabbath, Tony Iommi. And later I got into guitar players who didn't rely on any like fast kind of widdly stuff, like Andy Latimer from Camel, is a big influence on me, David Gilmour. And I come to understand that I always appreciated a good tone over technique. And that's where I found myself. That's where I could kind of leave my old dreams of becoming a proper, so to speak, heavy metal lead guitar player. I feel comfortable in relying on my tone, and my rhythm playing is, something I just played a lot of death metal. I'm not really good actually. I'm not like really fast with my right hand technique. Kind of sucks, but I can play what I want to hear to some extent. Fredrik is much more advanced in that kind of field.
What got me hooked for the first time, that made me want to practice more, was when I saw Michael Schenker the first time. And after that was Richie Blackmore, Uli Roth, John Uli Roth, big influence. The old Scorpion stuff, Ed Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, and Yngwie Malmsteen. When his first instrumental record came out, made a huge impact on me. Made me practice a lot. Yeah, like hundreds of thousands more guitar players. But also like more mellow players like David Gilmour, Mark Knopfler, and I appreciate the guitar player with a good tone. I think that comes before maybe technique. It's cool if you have both, but if you just have technique and no tone, I might be more interested in a player who play more slow and have a cool tone.
A lot of guitar players seem to be talking about the tone, does he have a tone or whatever? And I guess some people don't really, it seems like they don't really know what it means, but I like Richie Blackmore, he has a tone, you can hear, that's him, in like hundreds of guitar players you can hear Richie Blackmore, or if somebody's ripping it off, so that's what I like.
Gary Moore, I used to listen to Gary Moore a lot.
Wow. He should, he's really, these days, underrated, I think, In the 80s, obviously, he was a big artist, but now nobody's mentioning. When you hear, like, his solo albums or whatever he did with Thin Lizzy, it's like, wow, he's playing so hard,
The Black Rose album. Yeah, it's very aggressive.
D-A-D-F-A-E. I don't know shit about theory or tunings or anything, but this is a chord I thought sounded nice. That's basically the theme of the song. This is Zeppelin, dark, evil, devil worship. And then it goes into the verse, actually. We have a verse. Can you believe? Which is very simple. I sing unison with this riff. Majesty, faithful me, for yourself into you. And we have a little finger picking thing.
Play it slowly.
Actually, there's a tapping thing I saw, and you won't believe me telling this, but I saw a Paula Abdul live video. And she had a guitar player who did this double tapping thing, which is obviously very common. But I remember seeing that and thinking, someday when I'm capable, I'm going to do a solo with that double thing. Yeah, well, I can't do the dance moves. She can. I don't know if the guitar player has to do that as well. But it's probably going to be very slow. I'll start with the first thing. Nothing. Open tuning doing these solos is kind of difficult, you know, because it's a, you know. It's very, very odd actually playing this. It took us some, you know, all the guys in the band to learn this, you know. I just made it playing out of like feeling. It's very odd, you know. It's more difficult than it sounds, you know, I guess. Licks I've done, I think. It's so simple. It's basically, if the guitar would have been in a standard tuning, it would have been a blues lick. Like this. But with this tuning, turn.